Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Parlay Revival. This week we are going to show you the realities of doing a 1,000-mile passage, where even the captain can screw up. Not once, but twice.
I'm speechless. I thought I was more intelligent than that.
We have some amazing weather, some horrible weather.
We are at close hold to a 3-foot chop.
And get totally conflicting weather forecasts just to mix things up a little bit.
You can't make this up.
But that's the reality of it. So sit back and relax as we sail from Tonga all the way to Vanuatu. So I'm Colin, and this is the crew of Parlay Revival. From hurricane damaged to broken bulkheads and getting struck by lightning not once but twice, to being the strongest and fastest Lagoon 450 on the planet. We've already sailed 25,000 miles to get here, and nothing is going to stop us from circumnavigating the globe. So subscribe to follow our journey around this beautiful planet. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did. So what are you waiting for? So this adventure starts in Tonga, which is in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. We have finally reunited with the dogs, so skip back an episode if you really want the feels. And now we're ready to start the long passage to Vanuatu. We've done roughly 35,000 miles on Parlay already, so we're slowly getting used to these 1,000-mile adventures. But one thing's for certain, they should never ever be taken for granted.
So we've just left Tonga. We're down to 4 crew, that's it. It's just us. Colin, Jamie, Pedro, myself, and the 2 dogs. We have 1,000 miles to go. Just leaving Tonga now, it's already getting super rolly. So I'm kind of anticipating a little bit of a rough passage on this one.
Vanuatu with the boys!
Here we go. 1,000 miles. It's going to be a long 7 days, I think.
We've got the dogs back on board now. It's been incredible having them around again. But I thought we would do something different and maybe just go back to the basics of sailing and passage planning. And we'll take you through how we get this done. It's 1,000 miles, so that's a good week at sea. So we're going to be going through all different conditions. So we've just popped out of Tonga here and we've got the spinnaker up and we're just doing some really smooth downwind sailing right now. So that's going to last for a day or so. But what I use to plan my passages is this Predict Wind weather routing service. Here you can choose all the different models. So the most reliable I've found around here is the European model, the ECNWF. So you click on that and then you can scrub through and see what the predicted weather is the entire way. So you can click through the different models, GFS here, and what you're trying to look for is sort of an agreement between all of the models to say like that's going to be south east, for example. Then you can be fairly confident that that's what's going to happen. But sometimes, especially when we're going around New Zealand in these high latitudes, the GFS could be literally 180 degrees different to the Euro. So you didn't know which one to sort of believe until you're a few days out. So that's the issue with doing a long passage like this is you are it's a long time between your departure and arrival dates. So you just have to sort of cross your fingers that the weather is going to cooperate. Let's go!
So with the weather looking fairly reasonable, although the southeasterlies at the end of the trip looked a little interesting, we headed out into the Pacific, with Fiji being the only place for an emergency stop. But with 2 dogs on board, that was going to be a major issue. So we just committed to the 1,000-mile passage non-stop. And it wasn't long before there was some action on board.
Holy shit, it's jumping!
It's going to smoke us. I can see it.
He's got off.
Oh, yes. Lost it. Yeah.
That was ridiculous, huge. He took all the line.
So you may be surprised that we were actually kind of happy that the marlin spat out the lure. Well, we never keep billfish on Parlay, and there's too much meat to fit in our freezers with a fish that size anyway, so whenever we hook one, the best case scenario is exactly what happened. And we don't even lose our lure in the process, and the fish lives to tell another tale. But without further ado, we got started on the paperwork to give Vanuatu advance notice of arrival, which is something you have to do regularly when sailing to different countries.
It's the same as in a plane. We have to fill out arrival cards. Different countries have different levels of strictness about how they do things. Tonga was super relaxed. I didn't even have to go. I'm the owner of the boat and I'm the captain. And Jamie just went with Pedro and got all of our passports stamped and then got one piece of paper saying that we are now cleared out. As simple as that. We are no longer Tonga's problem. We're going to become Vanuatu's problem. So Vanuatu are really strict. So we've started out filling all the paperwork now for taking the dogs there, all our biosecurity declarations. There's 7 different forms. Each form has multiple pages of paperwork to do. We've been lucky enough to be invited onto the Pacific Rally by Vicky Moore. She's a bit of a legend in these waters, but she's made these books. And this is the Pacific Rally one, so I can skip straight ahead to Vanuatu here. And it literally tells me everything we need to know about clearing in.
We were sailing along beautifully, but here on Parlay we treat night sailing a little bit different than during the day. During the day we normally find that there are at least 1 or 2 people awake to assist the watchkeeper if need be. And also in broad daylight everything is just a little bit less dangerous. So the night passages start with the sails that we choose to be flying when it starts to get dark.
Whoa. So we just put the spinnaker away for the night and brought out the code D. The reason for that is the code D comes with a furler. And so if anything happened tonight, we're doing single watches now. So you can single-handedly furl the code D up. It's a big light air downwind sail. But you can't really do it alone with the spinnaker. At least I wouldn't want anyone to. Because you have to go up there and physically douse it. You have to pull the sock down over it while someone's sort of controlling the sheet or the tack line. So that's why we're doing it. And we're right on the cusp. We're like, it's 15 knots out here. But if we come across a squall tonight, that could go up to 20, 25 knots. And we really don't want to be stuck with the spinnaker up in there overnight. So that's why we do it. I know some people fly their spinnakers overnight, but I do think most people don't. But yeah, that's how we roll.
Even with the code D up instead of the spinnaker, we may choose to be even more conservative with our sail plans and go with the genoa like we are here. The best time to do this is when we do a watch handover and there are 2 people on deck at this time. But speaking of watches, it's usually Murphy's Law that prevails. When you get rid of the code D, you suddenly lose all the wind and have to put it back out again. So it's usually a bit of back and forth with the head sails at night.
But if we don't put the code D away, it could tear. So I bet you we'll have the code D out soon. Probably on my watch.
It's 1 a.m. and I've just come up for my shift. And I've done exactly what I told everyone else not to do. Earlier tonight, I knew this would happen. We're coming from Tonga to past Fiji, so when your phone is on automatic on the date and time settings, it just decides whenever it wants to switch to Fijian time, which is an hour back. So I told the guys, we don't know when it's going to happen, so let's all lock our phones. But I was editing and I didn't do it myself. I feel so bad. So I've just come up, it's 1 o'clock, and my phone switched to Fiji time in the last 3 hours, and my clock says midnight. So Pedro was able to have a good laugh about it, but he's just done an extra hour tonight sitting up here. So when you're sailing west, every now and then your phone or anything, your laptops will click back the hour that it's meant to, but it does it at really weird times. So what we normally do is lock your phone on date and time to avoid this. Tomorrow we'll all go back an hour for Fiji time, and then at a set time, usually like in the middle of the day when everyone's up anyway, it's not too inconvenient for someone to do an extra hour's watch, we will put our clocks back. But anyway, the wind has become a bit more consistent. I can see the trending of the graph there on the alpha display for the Ray Marine. So we've put the code D back out. I'm fairly confident that that's the right move. So we'll put our speed up a little bit and head towards the south side of Fiji. Also, watch this. I'm going to do a screen recording on my phone, but we're just coming past a couple of reefs, but when you're zoomed out on your Navionics chart, it just looks like an island, and as you zoom in, the two reefs appear. So as you're cruising around places like this that are very, very badly charted, make sure you zoom into the chart. There's a boat called Thursday's Child. We were with them in Mexico, and then French Polynesia, and then New Zealand, and then they came up to Fiji and they lost their boat for that exact reason. They weren't zoomed all the way in. It actually looked like there was nothing there, and they ended up sailing straight into this reef, and they couldn't salvage their boat. So really sad story. But anyway, make sure you're zoomed in and looking at what's coming, because sometimes it says nothing and then a reef will appear.
So for the rest of the night and into the next morning, the sailing conditions were absolutely perfect, and the boat gently rocked me into a deep sleep. The sort of sleep that you never want to end. A sleep so good that even the daylight pounding in through the hatch couldn't wake you up. But this came at the expense of my poor crewmate Pedro.
It's 8:30.
Got something on me too.
Well, last night I had to cover Colin for an hour, as he told us to not to change the time because we were about to cross the line to get to Fiji, and now I'm here covering here so far for 30 more minutes.
I'm speechless. I did the same thing again. I got up at 9 instead of 8. I must have, I don't know, I thought I was more intelligent than that, but I must have had my phone still on Fiji time. So today we're all going to Fiji time together. So our rule on here is if you're late to your watch, you owe the boat a 6-pack of beer. So that's in one night, that's a dozen beers that I'm in the hole for. Oh, I can't believe it. You guys hungry? Have you been good boys? Eat your food. So we just swapped out, did our morning routine of bringing the code D away and putting up the big dog, the spinnaker. That gets our speed up like 2 knots just immediately. Hoping that we get there on Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, so it's day 3 of the passage. Everyone's starting to feel a bit tired and a little bit sick, so I'm gonna cut up some fruit for everybody. Get everyone's spirits up, get everyone's health up.
Thank you so much, Brit.
How are you feeling?
Great.
Are you sure?
A little bit tired, but all good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Waiting for like the lines to go off. See if you can catch something. After losing 3 fishes yesterday.
I didn't even realize we just went through this massive flock of birds. Oh, this thing's big, man. I don't want to lose the gas. I'm just letting him get a bit tired. Brought the spinnaker down. That's the thing when you're sailing, you're doing 7-8 knots. So we just got the spinnaker down real quick, and now we're in reverse. Nearly spooled. There we go. Lift the tail, another tail. Man. We don't really like to eat skipjack. They're not the best eating. A lot of people do. That's not what we want. We want a big yellowfin or something.
The next 24 hours were pretty uneventful. which in my opinion is exactly what you want on a long passage. Blue water sailing sometimes feels like a game of patience, as you only really get around 150 nautical miles closer every 24 hours, which in comparison you could do in a few hours in a car or 20 minutes in an airplane. Instead, we just chug along at a leisurely speed, using our time wisely when we aren't sleeping to get some editing done or do some exercise while the boat's not too rocky. But if you have ever sailed, or you're an avid watcher of YouTube sailing channels, you will know that the peace and serenity of a calm moment at sea can all change in seconds.
Tuna!
Tuna! Good see it. That only took about 3 days.
Yeah.
Well earned.
Today, sushi and sashimi.
Chicken will live to see another day.
So this here behind us is called a squall. And we've got full spinnaker up. And just keeping an eye on the wind, because as that thing gets closer, the wind increases. The wind speed can easily double. So we should probably bring it down in a sec. We've just turned to try dodge it, but it's a big wide one and it's just gonna come straight over us any second, I think. It's gaining on us, can't outrun it. Drop the spin.
So today honestly feels like there's so much going on. We have squalls all around us. We've had about 6 sail changes today. The reel's going off, screaming all at the same time. The stove's on and cooking. So yeah, it's just been one of those days. You gotta really be on your toes and be able to run around, drop what you're doing, and just help out at all times. But yeah, that's gonna hit us right now.
So we soldiered on across the Pacific Ocean, going about our daily routines, and at this point in the trip everyone gets a real sense of routine, and sometimes it feels like Groundhog Day out here as we took over 4 days at sea. With 4 crew, we all do shifts of 2 hours on and 6 hours off, which is actually pretty comfortable. We've got a lot of respect for couples or solo sailors that are out here doing this, but I would much prefer to have the numbers on board myself to do a passage like this.
Back on watch. Just finished doing some cooking and come up to some really squally conditions. It's pretty cold, as you can tell from all the gear we're wearing, and it's pretty darn wet, so fingers crossed for a good night tonight.
Morning guys, so we got some really weird stuff happening with the weather today. This is all part of the game. We're just coming south of Kadabu Island in Fiji, and we've had a pretty good run overnight. It's been beam on or behind us on the starboard side, and it's going to be like that this morning, and then all of a sudden it's going to go from these northeasterlies to this crazy southerly coming up. Yeah, so it's just going to hit us all of a sudden from the port side, and it seems like it's a pretty it's not a very gradual change, it's just like bang, southerly. So we'll have to see what that brings us. But then we've got more of a trade wind scenario here for the rest of the trip to Vanuatu. We've got strong winds for sure. So this is an example of the 2 models here. We've got the ECNWF, the European model on the left, GFS on the right, and the Euro model, if that's correct, it's saying it's a beam on sail. It's northerlies, we're going west. If the GFS is right, it's saying the wind is directly on our nose. We'll have to bear away and tack our way upwind. So completely different forecasts. So it's another thing that we have to sort of deal with out here is trying to figure out which one has been more accurate for that area, and but kind of preparing for both scenarios. Most of the time the European has been more accurate, but there's times when it has been completely wrong, and GFS has been completely wrong, and you're just out here going, where did this come from? So it's all part of the game, I know. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but it's just one of the challenges of doing these longer passages. The weather is just very confused, and that's why we've got all of these squalls around us. It's just not a very nice day. So, a lot going on. Okay, it's official. We've hit that really strange southerly. So we were on a starboard tack, and you know, over an hour, it just swung around, and now we're close hauled, which is we're sailing as close to the wind as possible. So the wind is at 45 degrees to us on the port side, and we're trying to get towards Vanuatu, but because it's coming from southwest, it's pushing us northwest. So hopefully as this wind shifts, we'll be able to get more of a direct line to Vanuatu. But it never ceases to amaze me how quickly the winds can change. And when the winds change, obviously the seas change. So we've had this following sea with us for days. Now that we're sort of pinching, so we're trying to sail as close to the wind as possible, the swell's going to come from here now. In the southern hemisphere, this wind will spin in a clockwise direction. So as you sail towards a low, the winds are changing as it comes near you, and if it comes straight over you, the wind can do a 180. It's like a cyclone as well. If you get hit by a cyclone, the wind's going one direction. In the eye, there's no wind at all. I've been in the eye of a cyclone, and then on the other side, the winds are 180 degrees, and it's all just moving air because of temperature differences. Mind blowing. Anyway, 480 miles to go. Cooking's going to become hard now. The slamming is going to increase. We are at close hold into a 3-foot chop. We got Ronnie Colin over there.
And what do you do when it's choppy?
Sit down, we gotta do the shoulders like this.
Gotta work all the stabilizing muscles.
Oh!
It's heavy!
Yeah.
So we continued to smash into the waves, and cooking got harder and harder as the swell kept building with the new southeasterly. The motion of a catamaran in these conditions can be extremely uncomfortable, as wave hit the two hulls at different times, throwing the boat around like a little corkscrew in all of Mother Nature's power and relentlessness. I'm clearly a huge fan of catamarans, for a multitude of reasons, but sailing upwind on a catamaran is its biggest downfall, and in these specific conditions I much prefer to be on a monohull. Although, at least the catamaran is still vertical, which means there is no need for a gimbaled stove, but the irregularity of the motion can wear you down after a while.
Man, it has been 3 days of this dance with the apparent wind. So if you don't know what the apparent wind is, that is the wind that the boat feels. So you've got the true wind out here, which is obviously the actual wind that is out here. But as we sail into it, the apparent wind increases, and everything, the loads on the sails and rigging and everything increases. And then if we turn downwind, the apparent wind comes down, so all of the loads reduce. So we've had this 10 to 20 knot range, and I can't remember the last time I've been out in the open ocean and the wind be so variable. It'll be 10 knots and then 20 knots, and then 10 knots and then 20, like 5 cycles every hour. And it's confusing because you get that a lot when you're near land or going through islands, or if there's a lot of squalls around. But this is just, we're out in the middle of nowhere and the wind just keeps changing like crazy. So we've got the wind on our beam, and when it's 10 knots we sort of turn up into it and we can point at a good angle. But then when it goes to 20 knots, the apparent wind speed goes up above that because we're going sort of into it, and we have to turn downwind. So our track towards Vanuatu is just this weird zigzaggy path that we're taking. Yeah, it's been 3 days of pretty unpleasant sailing.
But the show must go on, and here you get a rare glimpse of me cooking in the galley. There's a bloody good reason that I don't spend a lot of time in here, and that's because everyone loses when I'm doing the cooking. I've always been a 2-minute noodle or a Marmite on toast kind of guy, so it's good when anyone other than myself prepares the meals. But desperate times call for desperate measures, as the big fella was hungry with no one else around.
Look at the service.
Bulking up, look.
But we were soon less than 100 miles away, which meant that with any luck, we would be in Vanuatu the following day. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as we attempted to show you the highs and lows of doing a 1,000-mile passage at sea. Some passages can be much smoother than this, and some can undoubtedly be much worse. But one thing is true, it's always an adventure when you sail out into international waters. Heading offshore on a big floating piece of plastic from one country to another possibly seems insane to a lot of people. But I'm hopefully going to be doing this until the day I die.